Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel and welcome to a little bit of a reading wrap up. So we're going to be going through all of the books that I read in January and February. I read a total of 12 books in these 2 months at the beginning of the year, and honestly, I had a pretty stunning start to my reading this year because I just read so many good books. And I found a potentially new favorite series, and I'm just really pleased with how my reading has been going so far this year because honestly, just been like banger after banger. Like I've only had one 5-star read, but the other ones have been like 4 stars. I only had like 2 or 3 3-star books, and just honestly, such a stunning start to the year. Like I'm really happy with how my reading has been going so far this year. So the first book that I read in January, I listened to it on audiobook, and that was Take a Hint, Danny Brown by Talia Hibbert. This is the second book in the Brown Sisters series, and I really enjoyed this one. I remember having a really good time listening to this audiobook because I was doing some journaling at the beginning of the year, so I was listening to a lot of audiobooks, and this was one of the audiobooks that I just found on Scribd. I could just like instantly read it, so I was like, you know what, let's just read it because I have the third book on my physical TBR, but I want to read the second one first. So yeah, I read Take a Hint, Danny Brown, and honestly, I really enjoyed it. I gave this one 4 stars. It was just so good, and like just like the chemistry and just everything with these two characters was honestly stunning. Do I remember much about what happens? No. But I remember really enjoying it, and just Talia Hibbert knows how to write a stunning and sexy romance, and it was just a very good time. So after that, I listened to the audiobook for A Curious Beginning by Deanna Raybourn. This is the first book in the Veronica Speedwell mystery series, and I loved it so much. I gave it, again, 4 stars, but honestly, the more that I think about it, the more that it's a 5-star. Like, I feel like once I start rereading this series, the first book is gonna be 5 stars. Like, I can just see it. Like, I think I initially gave it 4 stars because I was like listening to the audiobooks. I was kind of like passively listening, but I had such a good time with this book. Like, this was the start of it all for me. Like, this started a new era for me because after that I continued reading the series, but we'll get there eventually. But I obviously started with the first book, A Curious Beginning, and I loved it so much. Just the chemistry and just the banter between our two main characters, Veronica and Stoker, is honestly just I can't put into words just how good it is, because I have read a lot of books in my day, but I have never read a book that has such a good banter dynamic between two characters. Like, there are some other books out there that I just can't think of, but like in recent years, I was laughing out loud so many times. I was giggling at some of their interactions, and I was just like laughing so much because they just have such a good dynamic, and the banter is honestly just like so good. Like, the banter is just like, if you've read this series, then you know, like, you know, but if you haven't read this series, you need to absolutely read it. Like, you need to read it. It's so good. The mysteries are like interesting, I guess, but are we really here for the mystery? No, like, I'm here for the relationship between Veronica and Stoker, and it had such a stunning start at the beginning because they are just so witty. Like, especially Veronica, she is so witty and funny and like quick with like her little remarks, and her and Stoker just like bounce off of each other so well. So they just have like such good chemistry and just such a good dynamic that I am absolutely obsessed with it. So read the first book in this series, gave it 4 stars, and then after that I read the ebook for Love in the Library by Maggie Tokuda Hall. I honestly don't remember much about this. I think I just like wanted something quick to read, so I found the ebook on Libby like to instantly borrow. So I was like, you know what, I'll read it. And I remember it being really cute and really sweet, and that's kind of all that I can say for this one because I honestly don't remember much about what happened to this one. I just remember it being a short and sweet little like picture book situation, and I enjoyed it. I think I gave it 4 stars, and yeah, I enjoyed it, but I don't really have much to say besides that. But then after that, I read volume 33 of Yona the Dawn, and I think I also gave this one 4 stars. Let me check my Goodreads. Yes, I gave this one 4 stars. This was just absolutely stunning. Like, it's been a while since I have picked up this series, but since I'm trying to get through my physical TBR and like trying to catch up on like series and finish series, I was like, you know what, it's finally time to pick the series back up. So I read volume 33. Really enjoyed it. I remember there being some really good moments between all of the characters, and I just had a really good time. Am I starting to regret like putting so much space in between all of these volumes? A little bit, because I don't really feel that same connection with the series that I did when I was like binging them back to back. Like, I stopped reading this series for like a hot minute, for like a couple of months, so like I kind of forgot things that happened. But then we have the absolutely stunning dynamic with this found family, and it just brings me right back into it. So like, I'm having conflicting feelings of like, I like that I'm taking my time with this series because I don't want it to be caught up, but I also wish that I was like already caught up and I read them more close together so that I can actually remember what happens in the series. But I still really enjoyed it, still had a really good time. We learned a lot of really interesting backstory for Yona, Hawk, and Suwon. Like, it's really interesting seeing their dynamic when they were younger. It was just really interesting, and I really enjoyed it. I had a good time, so this was another 4-star read. And then after that, I decided to finally read An Ember in the Ashes by Saba Tahir. This was like a cult favorite, cult classic in the booktube community back in like 2017, 18, or like even longer ago than that. But I remember this being such a popular series back in the day, and I bought a physical copy of it in like 2020, I think, because I had seen so many people talking about how good this series was, but then I just didn't pick it up. But since Katie and Cass are doing the Wyverns and Words book club for this series, they're doing one book of this series every month, I was like, you know what, I think it's finally time. I think this is a sign that I need to pick up this series and read it, and I did, and I had such a good time with this book. I gave this one, again, 4 stars, and it was just so good and just like so interesting, because this is technically a YA series, but it reads very like new adult / adult because of the themes that it discusses. Like, there is a lot of brutality and a lot of just like really intense like battle scenes and just like scenes in general, and just like a lot of like intense and like slightly gory things happening in this series. So it's a little bit interesting that this is considered YA, because I wouldn't really consider it YA, because it kind of gives me like Poppy War vibes in the same way of how they're both really brutal stories that take place during this like war, and there's like a school and all of that. Like, they're very similar in that way, and also in just how like, again, brutal the world is. Like, it's just so interesting that this is considered YA, because I would honestly categorize this as like adult. Like, if both of the characters were like 2021, it would probably be adult, but since one of them is I think 19 or like 18, it's considered YA. But I just thought that was really interesting, and I wasn't the only one that had that same feeling, because I was looking through the Discord to see what other people were saying about this book, and a lot of people have been like, yeah, it's really interesting that this is considered YA. But with all of that aside, the story in this one is so interesting, because you're following Laya, who is a scholar living in this empire, and her brother gets arrested for treason for being a traitor to the empire, for spying on the empire and like learning how to make these like really powerful weapons. He is arrested for treason, and Laya feels like partially responsible for this because she didn't really do anything when her brother was taken away from her. She just ran away because her brother told her to run away, so she did, and now she's carrying that guilt with her, and she decides to form up some sort of plan to help break her brother out of prison. So she decides to enlist the help of this group of people called the Resistance, and in order to get them to help her with breaking her brother out of prison, she needs to kind of spy on the commandant of this military academy. So she has to be a slave for this commander and just kind of learn information, spy on her, and just try to figure out what is going on with this empire and with this war that's brewing. So she becomes a slave for this commander, and in the process of this, she meets Elias, who is absolutely stunning. He is a mask, or like a soldier in this academy, and it's just so interesting seeing their dynamic because Elias is a mask. He has been trained his whole life to be a mask. These are like the soldiers of the empire. He has trained his whole life to be a mask, but he doesn't want any part of it. He's actually planning on fleeing after he graduates and like running away and no longer being a part of this like empire. But then we have Laya, who is a scholar and is being a slave for this commander, and they just have like such an interesting, it's just so interesting seeing these two characters and how their stories kind of intertwine, because they both have like very similar motivations and very similar beliefs. And it's just really interesting seeing these two different characters try to come together in order to fight back against this empire. Like, it was just so interesting following these two characters because it is dual POV and like not dual timeline, but there's two POVs. Like, it switches back between both of the characters for every chapter. It's just so interesting seeing like the contrast of their lives and their upbringings, but also seeing how similar they are and how similar their motivations are. Like, it's just so interesting. I had such a good time with this book. I gave it 4 stars and I really enjoyed it. Then after that, I read volume 34 of Yona the Dawn. I don't really have much to say about this one because I honestly don't remember much about what happens, but I remember really enjoying it. Gave it, again, 4 stars. This was just the month of 4 stars, to be honest, because I was just reading 4-star after 4-star, which I'm not mad about because it's better than having so many 3-star reads like I did last year. But another 4-star, absolutely stunning. Love this series. I need to catch up. Like, this is volume 34 and we're currently on like 41, and it's getting a little bit ridiculous, but I read it and really enjoyed it. And then the last book that I read in January was Act Your Age, Eve Brown. I forgot the name of this book for a minute, but I read Act Your Age, Eve Brown, which is the 3rd book in the Brown Sisters trilogy. It was on my physical TBR, so I felt very accomplished getting 2 books off of my physical TBR in the same month. Don't really have much to say about this one, to be honest, because I was kind of a little bit bored and not fully invested in the story. Like, it took me like a week and a half to read this contemporary romance, and I got to the point where it was like, I don't want to read this physically. Like, I just can't do it. So I listened to the audiobook for the last like 40% of it, just so I can, you know, consume the story but not need to like fully immerse myself in like reading the book, because I don't know, I really thought I was going to love this one. Like, I really thought this was gonna be my favorite out of all of the Brown Sisters books, but it just sadly wasn't. I gave it 3 stars, which is honestly shocking because I thought this was gonna be 5 stars. Like, I thought I was going to love this because it has a grumpy sunshine dynamic, and I've just heard so many good things about this book and about the hero and like their relationship and the dynamic. Like, I just heard so many good things. Like, I thought it was gonna be 5 stars because like he's absolutely stunning. Jacob is like absolutely stunning, but I just didn't care. Like, I didn't really feel like chemistry. I just didn't care. Like, I didn't really feel the chemistry or anything. Like, it's an interesting enough premise because she is like kind of a hot mess, as it says here on the back. She's a hot mess. She's always like going from like different job to different job. Can't really commit to anything. Then her parents decide to like cut her off financially, and they're like, unless you can keep a job for like a year, I think, you can't have access to your trust fund, to your money, blah 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 blah. So she needs to figure out what she's going to do with her life, and she stumbles upon this bed and breakfast that Jacob owns, and they have an interesting first encounter. And then as she's like leaving, she runs him over with her car and like breaks his arm, and it's just such an interesting setup. Like, it just is so chaotic, so funny, but I didn't care. Like, Jacob was stunning. There were some stunning moments because you can really see that Jacob really has feelings for Eve from the beginning, but he's trying to fight those feelings because she is the complete opposite of who he is as a person, because she's like so like bubbly and flighty and like outgoing, and he is the complete opposite. So it's really interesting seeing him like fight his attraction for her, and because like she is literally everything he doesn't like in a person. And it's just it was really interesting, but like again, I didn't really care. I don't know. This is honestly probably one of the most disappointing books that I read so far this year. Like, this will probably make it onto my most disappointing list because I really did have such high expectations, but I just didn't care. Like, I don't know if I wasn't in the contemporary romance mood at the time. I don't know if I just like didn't care at the time. Like, maybe I could have like put it on hold and just revisited later, but I pushed through and it ended up being 3 stars. So yeah. So now let's get into the books that I read in February. And February is a very interesting reading month for me because I set out to read like a variety of books. I had so many books that I was excited about, but I decided to completely abandon my February reading plans and just read Veronica Speedwell. Like, looking back, I kind of regret binging this series so quickly because I read 2 books in this series back to back. These 2. I read A Perilous Undertaking, which is book 2, and then right after that I read A Treacherous Curse, which is book 3. Like, I literally read these books back to back. Like, this is all that I was reading for like a week because I read these books so fast. I go through these so quickly, and I was just literally only reading these books. If you're gonna get into this series, I suggest not binging it because it's so good. Like, don't get me wrong, the series is so good, but I feel like binging it makes it kind of lose its magic a little bit. Like, I don't know, because it's a slow burn romance, and if you're just like reading them back to back, you don't really get much build up for the romance because you're just like binging them. So it just you know, it's not the same, but like I don't care, it doesn't matter. But yes, I read the 2nd and 3rd book. I gave both of these 4 stars. Out of these 2, my favorite is probably A Treacherous Curse because you get so much of Stoker's backstory in this one because of the mystery in this one. It like ties in directly to his past, and it's just so interesting seeing everything come up from his past and everything that happened to him and why he is the way that he is now, and how everything that happened to him like formed and changed him as a person. Like, it was just so interesting. Like, it was just so interesting seeing his character be like analyzed, I guess, in this book, because again, you learn so much about his backstory, and it's just it was so good. Like, there are also just like so many good Veronica and Stoker moments in this one too. Like, there's this one quote that I absolutely love. I read out this quote in my reading vlog where I read this book, but I'm going to read it again here because this quote just sums up Veronica and Stoker's dynamic and relationship and connection perfectly. So Stoker is saying, "You fight harder for me than you would ever do for yourself. Why?" And then Veronica says, "Because there is no power on earth that could make me abandon our friendship. There is no deed you could confess so dark that it would make me forsake you. You said of us once that we were quicksilver and the rest of the world mud. We are alike, shaped by nature in the same mold, and whatever that signifies, it means that to spurn each other would be to spit in the face of whatever deity has seen fit to bring us together. We are the same, and to leave you would be to leave myself. Make of that what you will." And just so good. So good. Like, thank you. But yeah, I just absolutely, I love this book. This book was so good. But this is the 3rd book. Let's talk about the 2nd one. This one was also really good. I didn't really care about the mystery. Like, the mystery in this one, I just didn't really care much for, because they're trying to like save this guy from being executed, and like that was kind of it. Like, I didn't really care. I didn't really care. I'm so sorry to this man, but I didn't care. But the moments between Veronica and Stoker in this one were so good. Like, there's this like whole scene where they are in this grotto and something happens with Stoker and Veronica, like like, just, if you know, you know. If you know, you know. No spoiler because this is the second book in a series, but it's just so good. And I have been annotating every single book in this series. Like, I've been like underlining and tabbing every single book in this series so far. If you couldn't tell, I'm just having such a good time reading these books, and just so good. Like, if you had any interest in reading this series or continuing this series or whatever, you absolutely need to, because these books are like slowly becoming a new favorite series. I haven't even finished the series yet, so maybe that's a little bit too soon. Maybe that's a bit of a bold statement to make as of right now, but I've just been having such a good time with this series. Like, they're just so good, so quick to read, so funny. The banter, the dynamics, the relationship, this extreme slow burn. It's just so good. It's just so good. So, yep, Veronica Speedball, thank you. And then after that, since we were in the month of February, the second month of the year, that means it is time to read the second Ember and the Ashes book. This is A Torch Against the Night. And honestly, I didn't care much about anything that happened in this one. Oh my god. I don't know what it was about this book, but I just was like pushing through this one. I don't know, because I read the first book, like I was like binging it. I was like staying up late at night to finish it, because the way the chapters would end would just like make you want to keep on reading, and the way that it ends is so powerful and explosive. And then in this one you pick up right where you left off. Like, at the end of the first book, they're like trying to escape, and in the beginning of this one they're like in the midst of escaping. So it like picks up right where the first book leaves off, which I loved. Like, there's no time, we're not messing around here, we're not playing any games, we're just getting right into it. So thank you, Sabbath to hear. But I didn't really care. I don't know, like this was a really interesting book, because you do learn a lot about the world and this war and this empire, and you also get introduced to a new POV. So in this one we're following 3 characters, Laia, Elias, and also Helen, who is Elias's best friend, who is like extremely loyal to the empire. Like, she's like ride or die for the empire, and Elias is like the complete opposite. So it's really interesting seeing these 2 characters be raised in the exact same way, because they both grew up in this academy, but seeing how different they are and how differently they feel about the world that they live in is like, it was really interesting, because you're also seeing Helen kind of battle with her feelings towards the empire, because her eyes are kind of being opened up to the harsh reality of this world, and she's like, maybe I don't want to be ride or die for the empire, because they're doing all of these horrible things. So like, maybe I thought wrong, maybe I need to change how I feel. And it's really interesting. I also just realized that her name is Helene, not Helen. I knew her name was Helene, but my brain just didn't want to say Helene, but her name is Helene. So we get introduced to more of Helene's character in this book, and I think her POV was my favorite out of the 3. We see a lot more of her character and her backstory, and just seeing why she is the way that she is, but also seeing her battle with that was just like so interesting. But then everything else I didn't really care for, because like Elias and Lyra, they're on the run, they're like trying to escape, they're like meeting people along the way or whatever, but I don't know, I just didn't care. Like, I was around like the 30 to 40-ish% mark, and I was like, I don't care. Like, I kind of had to push my way through this book a little bit, because I was just losing interest so quickly, and I don't know why. Like, I had to go get the audiobook from Libby in order to just like get through this story, because trying to read it physically, I could not do it. So I had to listen to the audiobook and kind of like passively read along. But yeah, I don't know what happened to me with this one. I don't know. I am still going to continue the series because I literally, you can see them right there. I have all 4 books. Like, as soon as I finished the first one, I bought the rest of the series. So I'm going to continue reading the series, but I don't know. I don't know. Like, there's a lot of really devastating things that happen to the characters in this book. Like, it's a lot. A lot happens, but I just didn't really care. I don't know. I gave this one 3 stars, and yeah. But then after that, I read an arc on NetGalley for The Baker and the Bard, which is a cozy fantasy graphic novel, and I gave this one 3 stars. Like, I have such a hard time with graphic novels for some reason, because I don't think I've ever given a graphic novel that isn't Heartstopper 5 stars. Like, every other graphic novel that I read is like 3 stars for the most part, and maybe there's like a 4-star in there, but they're almost always 3 stars for me. I don't know why I can't get into graphic novels. Like, I don't know. If anyone else is the same way, please let me know, but I just struggle really hard, like, really falling in love with graphic novels. I don't know, but I read this one and I thought it was really cute, really sweet. I loved the art style. It was very like whimsical, cottagecore-y, and the art style was so pretty. I loved looking at all of the illustrations, and the story itself was really wholesome because you're just following these characters going on an adventure to find ingredients to make this order for the bakery that they work at, and they meet characters along the way, they make new friends along the way. But I don't know, I feel like the story itself wasn't really fleshed out that much, because like it feels like the characters don't get much growth, or the story itself doesn't really feel fully developed. Like, I feel like it probably could have benefited from being just like a little bit longer, because it just didn't really feel like a fully fleshed out story. And then also some of the dialogue was a little bit wonky. Like, it was just a little bit strange and kind of like out of place. It just didn't feel like it fit in to the story, but it was overall really cute, really sweet, and I did enjoy it, but I just didn't really care that much about the story or the characters. And like, the art style was like really cute, but that's kind of really all that I can say about that. Like, I don't know. Maybe I just don't enjoy graphic novels the way that I thought I did. I don't know, because I don't really enjoy many of the graphic novels that I read. Like, I'll enjoy them, but I don't love them. Like, they're all just like 3 stars at the minimum. And yeah, I don't know. That's all that I have to say about that one. Thank you to NetGalley and Macmillan Children's for giving me the arc for this book. It comes out on March 5th. So if you are interested in it, I do recommend it. It is a cute, short, sweet, and quick graphic novel, but it doesn't really stand out to me. But what did stand out to me, where is it? Here it is. The fourth Veronica Speedwell book. This was my first 5-star read of the year. This was when I decided to stop binge reading this series. It took me like a week-ish to read this book because I didn't want to speed read it the way that I have with the other books. So this one I really took my time, and if I wasn't in the mood to read, I would just put it down and come back to it when I was in the mood. So that was a very good idea on my part, because it just made me enjoy the story even more than I thought I would, because I wasn't like not forcing my way, but I wasn't like rushing through it. So I was able to really fully enjoy the story, and it was just so good. Like, it was just so good. Look at all my tabs. Look at all my tabs. This was an absolute stunning 5-star. Like the slow burn romance, the things that happen in this book are just so good. Like, I have 2 dog ear moments, because these are moments that I need to just be able to easily go back to. Like, I just need to easily go back to them so I can just like read them. It is so good. Oh my god. The more that I think about this book, the more that I want to reread it immediately. Like, I just... Let me actually talk about what this book is about. So in this one, the mystery, absolutely stunning, because in this one they are in a remote island on a castle. Like, they're in a castle on a remote island in like this like small random little town, and it's like a spooky little castle. There's like, you know, old castle-y things and like hiding spots and like things like that are like, you know, classic old castle things. And there's like a ghost lurking about. Like, there's like this person that mysteriously disappeared and they're trying to figure out what happened to her. So the owner of this castle brings in all of these people to try to help solve this mystery. It kind of has Knives Out vibes, because all of the people that live in this castle, like, there's like a few people that live in this castle. It's like 5 or 6 people, and then like all of the servants, and like all of the people that live in this castle have motive for wanting this person to disappear. So they're all kind of just trying to figure out, like Stoker and Veronica and like kind of Stoker's brother a little bit, but mostly Stoker and Veronica are trying to figure out who could have done it and what happened to her, because she just like randomly disappeared. No one has no idea where she is or what happened to her. So they're just like trying to suss out all the people that live in this castle, and they each have their own motives. And it was so interesting seeing all of these people kind of like accidentally reveal themselves as being potential murderers. I don't know. It was just so interesting, and it just has all of like the spooky, creepy castle vibes, and like all these like mysterious family members, and how they're all like a little bit like mysterious, and just I thought this was so good. Like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. I don't know what else I can say besides absolutely stunning. Favorite book of the year. Probably this is definitely gonna be one of my favorite books of the year. It was my first 5-star of the year, and it was just so good. The build up and the payoff was just so worth it. Like, the slow burn in this one, things happen, and just, yeah, absolutely stunning. Absolutely stunning. That's all that I have to say. Actually, as if I didn't really say much. I said a lot, but also didn't say anything at all. Because just absolutely stunning. Thank you. I need to stop talking about this book. But yeah, so those are all of the books that I read in January and February. Such a good start to the year. I read so many good books, found a potentially new favorite series, found a 5-star book, potentially new favorite book, and just honestly an absolutely stunning start to my reading this year. So I'm very excited to continue reading throughout the year, because I just feel like I'm having such a good time with books this year. Because like last year I was kind of on the struggle bus a little bit. Like, I was starting to think that I hated reading, but maybe I do love reading, you know? Like, you just gotta find those books that just absolutely work for you. And I found so many good, stunning, amazing books, and it was just such a good time. But yeah, let me know in the comments down below what have been your favorite and least favorite books that you have read so far this year. My favorite one is probably definitely A Dangerous Collaboration, and least favorite, either Actor H. Eve Brown or A Torch Against the Night. I don't want to talk about it, but yeah, those are my favorite and least favorite books. So let me know yours down below. But yeah, so that is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.